America is the greatest meat grinder of black bodies, of black flesh that this world has ever known. Has ever known. In fact, when they say America is a melting pot, black people are the pot. Black people have always been the pot. And to their own self-destruction, you have these right-wing Nazi-minded individuals believing that there will ever come a time that this country can exist without us. Irrespective and beside the point, I would like to go on to a subject matter that is disturbing to me. It may be antiquated to others, or it may be old to others, but to me is a relatively new story, and it's a frustrating story to read because it goes back to that first statement that I made to you, that this country, it grinds its teeth on us. It grinds us into the dirt, and it is so deeply interwoven into the fabric of this country's ideology that it's becomes normalized, so much so that it's like the atrocities which befall blackness in this country are so Herculean that it's difficult to keep up with it. It really is. But I want to talk about the brother's name is Kyren Lacy, and I want to speak on a fact real quick before we get into the brother's story. For those who don't know of his story, he had a very bright future in football, which was taken away from him through police avarice.
I was premised on it's a business, a prison industrial complex. You got cheap labor. The 13th Amendment says you're allowed to be enslaved if you're convicted of a crime.
And police misconduct, official misconduct. Ultimately, the police lied. They lied. All those other cars on the scene, they could have picked anyone, but they picked his. Why? Because in this country has a history, as the brother Tariq put out there in his 5-part series, Hidden Colors. This country has a history. These people, the racists, have a history of buck breaking us. Those of us they feel as though they need to make into a sacrificial image to let us know that we can be put in our place for this reason or no reason at all. Which is ultimately what we all witnessed with the slaying, the lynching, the murder of George Floyd. That was them saying we can do what we want, when we want, how we want, for this reason or no reason at all. Or no reason at all. That was the message that was being translated in the manner and deft coolness that they all executed while they were executing George Floyd. Beside the point. Kyren Lacy was a sacrificial lamb to the altar of white supremacist appetites. And to that point, I would like to go to the Death Penalty Information Center. It was a March 14th, 2025 article they wrote. And I just want to touch on one point before we get to the video, because this is my pattern. I like to give context. Sometimes, as my family would tell some of you who are following this channel, I can be contextually long-winded. I can stay on the topic for very long before I actually get to the point that I was going to make, because I know that there's so much into it. And I am of the opinion to believe that I would much rather give you the information in the lead up so you would understand the complete contextual arrangement that I'm operating under when I actually get to the point, as opposed to just getting to the point and having you guess what I'm talking about. But this will be the last contextual point that I give, and then we'll go on to the Kyren Lacy incident. My mind wants to butcher his name, or at least blend it with the other atrocity in Tyree Nichols, but no. Going back to the report, the article. This week, the National Registry of Exonerations published its annual report on exonerations that took place in 2023. According to the report, the registry recorded 153 exonerations last year, and nearly 84%, 127 out of 153, were people of color. Nearly 61% of the exonerees, 93 out of 153, were black. While the most frequent factor in their wrongful conviction was official misconduct. And for those of you who have the pleasure of not having come up against law enforcement, official misconduct is like planting evidence, lying in official police reports, doctoring evidence, stuff of that nature, or even suppressing it, Brady violations. All of those things happen. Intentionally so. Those aren't coincidental things. These are things that they intentionally line themselves up to commit in order to put a black body into 21st century slavery. All right. Now, with that being said, let's get to this video. It's rather disgusting by my accounting of things.
In the top left of the screen, you're going to see multiple cars just making their way south to Thibodaux, coming from Vacherie. At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2 from oncoming traffic colliding with the vehicle of Mr. Hall. You will see another vehicle come to a stop, and then you'll see Kyren Lacy come to a stop.
So as we've seen the video, it looks like the impact happens, and then Kyren Lacy is behind him. How far away was he from there?
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the investigative report that I now have my hands on. We know from data that Kyren Lacy did, in fact, pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Back in his lane, behind Mr. Hall. At the time of impact, he's 72 behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicles. That is not how this story was ever painted. Never.
Any part of the district attorney's investigation that talked about Mr. Lacy getting back, I guess we'd call it, what do you call it, correcting or getting in your proper lane?
Sure, he was back in his proper lane according to their data. This isn't my expert. This is the investigation of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. So I'm here simply comparing and contrasting.
I wish that video would have went on longer. It was on my Scoops feed in the morning, and I got into it. Let's go into the crash now. On January 10th, 2025, Louisiana State Police issued an arrest warrant for Lacy. He was accused of speeding and illegally passing people on Louisiana Highway 20 and causing a head-on car crash that killed a 78-year-old passenger on December 17th, 2024. Lacy reportedly fled the scene without calling authorities or emergency services. Lacy was arrested on January 12th after he agreed with authorities to turn himself in. He was released on the same day on a $151,000 bail and charged with negligent homicide, felony hit and run with death, and reckless operation of a vehicle by a Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. In October 2025, Lacy's attorney was interviewed on local news featuring footage he claimed exonerated Lacy, which did in fact show that Lacy's vehicle was not involved in the crash and that his vehicle came safely to a stop. But let me show you how one act from these race soldiers can alter a life, because it goes on to read, 2 days before a scheduled grand jury hearing related to the December 2024 car crash, Lacy got into a verbal argument with a family member, and Lacy fired a gun into the ground before fleeing the scene. A vehicle pursuit with the police occurred, lasting several miles, and ended when Lacy's vehicle crashed. Lacy was found dead in his car, appearing to have died by suicide by firearm prior to the crash, as both the body camera and dash cam revealed no shots were fired after the pursuit ended. Now, I have a question. Do you think the young brother would have taken his own life? I hate accepting their narratives, but because there's video footage, I'll accept the video, not them. Do you think the young brother would have taken his life if this event, the lying by the police, had never occurred? That his entire focus of his young life was not viciously, savagely, and unfairly stripped away from him by the lying conduct of law enforcement over there in Louisiana? Do you think this young brother would have ever found himself on the opposite side of a barrel of a gun? Ever. These people intentionally destroy our lives. Intentionally do it. That video evidence that they produce, they always had that evidence. There was nothing in that evidence supporting the narrative that this man had anything to do with that car crash, let alone negligent homicide or hit and run. Hit and run actually requires you to hit someone. So you mean to tell me that this is the evidence that the police could produce and they handed it over to the district attorney, showing that the man never hit anybody, and the district attorney still chose to pursue the man for fucking negligent homicide and hit and run? And then you guys come back and with the audacity to talk about we live in a country where they uphold the law. They never uphold the law, and they have never upheld the law when it came to black people. Black people have consistently and constantly compelled them to abide by the law, compelled them to abide by their constitution, compelled them to abide by the statutes. They consistently break them, which is the reason why you have official misconduct laws in the first place. My suggestion to the family would be to sue. You can indeed in this country sue the prosecutor's office. Sue them. Sue them for malicious abuse of process. Sue them. Sue them until the white meat falls off. And while that will not resurrect your son, it will not bring back your child to you. What it will do is give you some financial peace. It will bring to you some financial peace that you have successfully targeted your son's victimizers. You have successfully struck a blow against an institution whose entire existence has been founded upon its ability, whether it be deft or whether it be based upon nepotism, its ability to unrighteously, unlawfully take the lives of black and brown bodies and funnel them into a prison industrial complex, whereafter the entirety of the value of their lives will be measured by that one or two or three events which brought them into those barrel or belly of this slave ship, 21st century version of a slave ship that happens to be erected on land as opposed to sailing on water.